Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, warshippers of all ages, welcome back to YouTube. It's been a hot minute since we did a battle report, and I even think the last one I did was in Zao, and well, we're back here again in the bridge of Tier 10 Japanese heavy cruiser, Zao. I have no idea why I took this ship out. I have no idea. I was just kind of jonesing for a game in it. Zao, I still have a love-hate relationship with this ship, right? Like, Zao was my very first Tier 10 in the game, and the guns are still amazing. The torpedo armament is so good, and every now and again, I'm just like, man, I gotta take this ship out, so let's do it. And surprisingly, I continue to have interesting games in her, such as this spin on Trap. Now, this is maybe only the 6th or 7th game I've played in Zao since they added the goofy submarine surveillance consumable back in the spring. And like the last game that I posted in Zao on the channel, which has been a few months, that consumable is going to feature in this game relatively prominently, but it's going to happen a lot sooner than it did in my last game that I posted from Haven. Starting off here on the south, the south, what is this, like the southwest corner of the map, I suppose. On the west side here of Trap, we're going to head down to B and back up this Humphreys and this 2501. Now, what I'm really hoping for is that this Humphreys will smoke for me. I haven't asked him to, but you know, American destroyers on occasion will be a little heads up, and they'll see that, and they'll take care of it, and nah, it's not going to happen here. And that's fine. Now, this is interesting, right? When I'm not even in the cap circle yet, and I have a sub 10 kilometer detection, and I'm already lit, that tells me that something up here is being very, very aggressive. Now, it's probably not one of the submarines. I don't think they're quite quick enough to get far enough forward to where they could spot me just yet. Maybe the 2501, I'm not sure. But the trash can or the Amagiri might be able to. Certainly the trash can has the speed. So we'll keep an eye out here and see what's going on. But that's what, yep, there we go. That was the first thing I noticed, was like, wow, it's super early for me to be getting spotted. And then the Tashkent, of course, is really not going to enjoy his life, because there are few things that Zao enjoys shooting at quite as much as she enjoys beating the holding, howling bejesus out of opposing destroyers. So we get a good 6K salvo out of the HE into him right there. I'm going to get a little more chip damage here. Another 4K. Now, we're going to drive the trash can off. He's lost, 3/4 of his HP in a matter of seconds. I'm going to take one more salvo at him on the way out just to see what I can get, but nothing doing. The 4501 is actually in this cap. Okay, that's good to know. I'm going to take, I think, an ill-advised salvo at him here. Nope, okay. Yeah, I do actually take that salvo. That was not smart of me. I mean, I was already on fire and not really getting out of the Johann's secondary range anytime soon, but I still shouldn't have done it. So the Colbert is trying to farm me. I'm on double fire now. Time for a heal. And this Johann is still coming. It's interesting that Zao's armor remains as trolly as ever in this kind of an instance, right? I'm able to kind of just keep moving, keep the Johann at my back, and wait for my battleships to show up. And sure enough, as I retreat back to the edge of the map, put the fire out, and go dark, I wander into my friendly Wisconsin and my friendly Musashi, which I'm very, very glad to see, because this Johann has zero chill. Look at this guy. He's just driving right into this cap. I really kind of want this Musashi to just wipe him out here in a sec. Obviously, given the angle, I am holding my fire. I'm going to wait until I'm going to lose him right behind the island, about right there. See if I can get another fire to light on him. At a minimum, he's not going to have any return shots. We do get a reset and the fire we were looking for. So what feels like perhaps a little over-aggression, and of course the Johann is going to go out here in just a moment, between my fire and the battleships that are shooting him, the Humphreys spotting him, he is going to go off the board here in just a sec. You can see there the pinging, the 4501 still lurking in the cap, as the Musashi takes a torp. There's the we catch a brief glimpse of the Tashkent. I had the AP in the barrel. I was hoping to catch a shot on this Colbert. Nothing doing, and those shots on the Tashkent aren't going to draw anything either. We are up a ship, though. Coming up on about 5 minutes gone. Now, if you read the map, we have half the team here, right? I have 2 cruisers, me and the Henri, 2 battleships, the Musashi and the Wisconsin, the Humphreys, and my friendly 2501. So half the team is at A versus only 4 of them, and the Lion, I don't know if you've noticed, but that Lion is bailing out. He is not hanging around. And 2 things have happened while I've made my little loop off to the north. Let's talk real quick. One is somebody is still in this cap. I don't know if it's the Tashkent or the 4501 running on the surface, but you see on the right side of the screen, the Humphreys has left me a smoke screen. Now, he didn't leave it for me, but I'm sure as hell going to go curl up in it and take advantage of it, because there's few things that make Zhao happier than being able to fire and not be spotted. It's also going to give me the opportunity to push closer to the submarine. Now, one of the things that we didn't talk about till the very end of the last time I played Zhao, but I'm going to talk about early here, is the submarine surveillance consumable, right? Unlike the version that you get on a submarine, the one you get on a surface ship starts ready. I don't have to wait for it to cool down, and it has mine has a 7-kilometer range to go with the 8-kilometer range on my airstrikes. Now, because I'm crawling into smoke, I'm expecting torpedoes, so I'm going to put my Hydra up before I get there. This trash can's going to catch a glimpse of me as I head south. Somebody is, anyway. And then, oh, the Colbert opens up. Okay, swap to the AP, flip the guns, and right as you duck into the smoke, right there, there's the salvo. So he's going to lose me in the smoke. I'm going to put the HE back in. And, oh, did you see it? Okay, good hit on the Colbert. And right there, the submarine's right there. There he is. Bam. Look at him. All right, now I'm going to watch him for just a sec. You can see him turning to starboard. So I'm going to lead both of my depth charges in such a fashion that they're going to be right in the line for him as he turns to starboard. But it's not just me. Look at the mini-map. Look at all the depth charges. Look at them. Amazing. 2 direct hits, about 10k damage, but it's the Wisconsin that finishes him off. I'm going to pause the game real quick to briefly point that out. That submarine, in my mind, didn't necessarily do anything wrong, but I was able to move up at the right time, catch him perhaps slightly overextended, nobody nearby to help him, and my team was on top of it when I had him spotted. That sub-surveillance consumable doesn't hang out very long. I think it's only about 20 seconds, but it's long enough for a team that's paying attention to get a bunch of big airstrikes in, and that's exactly what happened. We wiped him out the first time we had him locked up like that. The submarine surveillance thing on the Japanese heavy cruisers, when they first announced it, I remember thinking, you've got to be kidding me, right? That's not what this ship needs. It needs so much more. There's so many other things I would rather Zhao get. Pause the game real quick while I finish this thought. But in the end, the more I play this ship, the more I'm actually quite liking it. Like I think it's a really nice addition, especially when your team is heads up. The opposing Zhao right in front of me. I happen to have AP in the barrel. Well, we know how this goes. Put him down range at the waterline and see what shakes out of it. Now, Zhao's armor's pretty trolly. We're going to have to see what we get here. We are going to land 1 Citadel. All right. I'm not going to complain about that. It's more than I was expecting to get. Can't quite get the stern turrets around in time, so I was only getting the bow turrets for now. I want to put the HE back in, try to get a salvo on this Tashkent before we lose sight of him. Come on, guns. Come on, guns. All right, we got the bow turrets off, but still not the stern ones. Mildly irritating. And now I'm trapped up against this island. I'm going to have to back off a little bit. Did clip the Tashkent with a shell. Those are going to unfortunately slam into the island and go nowhere. All right, so now that my 6-player, 6 of us down here have taken solid control of the A-cap, I'm going to be a little more aggressive. We haven't talked about the strategic situation very much over the course of this map, but look at the mini-map, right? 4 of them clustered down, kind of running away from A now. Only the one Yamagiri that we sort of saw in B, and then and you can see him there now running north. So the whole rest of the enemy team basically up at sea. The entire middle of the board is wide open. It can't help but be. All 10 ships are accounted for somewhere else when you look at the mini-map. Well, all 9 ships, as it were. And so I'm going to go drive straight into the B-cap. What are they going to do to stop me? The Yamagiri's leaving, right? We don't know where the 2501 is, but still, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to make this move with Zhao's 10-kilometer detection. Now, because I have 2 possibilities of maybe getting good shots on one of these cruisers down here, because they don't know where I am, I'm going to keep AP in the barrel as I roll north. I'm sort of hoping my battleships will catch these guys and do some of this heavy lifting for me. But for the moment, I'm just going to hold my fire. I don't want these guys to know where I'm positioned. One of the keys, in my opinion, of making the best possible use of the Japanese heavy cruiser, especially at the high tiers when you get the good stealth on them, Ibuki and Zhao, and I guess Mogami really as well, is not firing when you're trying to reposition like this. Don't necessarily give up the ship. Don't give away everything. I mean, if you're going to get an amazing shot, and they're 12 kilometers out, flat broadside, you got AP in the barrel, yeah, you're taking that shot, obviously. But I could be farming this Zhao with HE right now. There's no value in it. At that angle, I'm going to get some good hits, but it's not going to be the big hits that I want, he says, taking the shot. My battleships aren't being very productive in this endeavor, so I'm trying to give them a bit of a leg up. Zhao started to turn back in, changed his mind. I put the AP in the barrel. I'm going to go ahead and take that shot as the lion shells come in. Luckily, he doesn't get very much out of them, and I'm sadly not going to get very much out of my AP either. A little bit of full pen. Now, pause the game for a minute. What's not happening right now? Do you see it? I'm not capping. That's interesting. We know where the Yamagiri is. The Yamagiri's up north. We know where the Tashkent is. He's somewhere off to my starboard side. That means the opposing 2501 is somewhere in this cap with me, trolling on the surface. Interesting. Because my sub-surveillance is up. My fancy depth charges are up. I have really good HE. I have Hydro. I'm equipped for this fight. Does he know that? I don't know, but he's about to find out the hard way. Lion Salvo coming in doing nothing because battleships, and there he is. He's going to miss his first ping completely, which is kind of important because his torpedoes were already in the water. We're going to put the HE down. I'm going to pop my goofy sub-surveillance and come up empty. I guess he's just outside of the range. There he is. Okay, so now I've got to try and lead these as he turns. He's going to try and go deep. It's not going to do him any good. I'm going to be just a little behind him with the depth charges. I needed to lead them just a little more. I'm going to catch him with some splash damage. I'm going to make him end up burning some of his damage control to keep the flooding and everything down. But unfortunately, I am going to lose him that way. But I do have my Hydro pinging. My Hydra's running. Okay. So, the next couple of minutes, the next 60 seconds or so of this game are a big deal for me. One, I am basically prosecuting a submarine at close range. In order to know where he is, I have to push him with my Hydro. At 2 kilometers, my Hydro will find him regardless of what depth he's at, and I am still, blessedly, because it's a 2501, I'm faster than he is. If it was a 4501, I'd be having a much different conversation to the microphone right now. The other thing is check out this Colbert. He is close. He probably is not thinking about me. He probably doesn't quite realize I'm here. I am looking for this shot. I'm waiting. Sooner or later, either I'm going to pull far enough forward or he is. And I am just salivating at the idea of this shot. And I'm going to check his motion in a moment with my torpedoes. Yep, you can see there. And right about the time I realize that he's moving forward again, the 2501 appears right in front of me. Well, time to get this cooking. Let's get these depth charges in the water. Get the AP loaded. I got to get my guns flipped back because my guy's about to come around the corner, and I want this shot so bad. There it is. Bam! Dead submarine, and Yahtzee. Dead Colbert. Sometimes people talk about how do you get double strikes in this game. Sometimes it's just a matter of heads-up play, reading the minimap, thinking through what's about to happen, and forcing the issue a little bit. If I'm not chasing the submarine, I don't get the opportunity for that double strike. But of course, if I'm not chasing the submarine, I also don't get the opportunity to wipe out the Colbert, which was well worth it. All right. I'm using the torpedoes now to try to gauge the movement of this Lion, who seems to be more or less stationary. The biggest threat I have right now is that somewhere off to my north is a Siegfried, and that guy is a cruiser killer. I want no part of him. I'm going to put the HE in the barrel and pop a spotter plane here, try and get some shells downrange on this opposing Zhao while he does things, and then the Tashkent is going to come out right in front of me. Well, I'll stick my secondaries on him and wait for my guns to reload. As long as I get moving here, this should be the end of his game, and he catches a fire from the secondaries, and yeah, he's out. The Siegfried, unfortunately, does pick me up here, but I can maintain a steep enough angle to him that he shouldn't be able to completely wipe me out. The other thing is that once my gun bloom fades, he can't quite pick me up right there. I'm dark again. And so now I'm trapped kind of in the middle of the board here between a Siegfried, the Lion, and it's still possible that the Vermont off to my north might get shells if the Yamagiri picks me up. One of the bad things, and you've seen me kind of fight this over the course of the game, Zhao's torpedo angles are not very comfortable, right? They don't look very much astern the way they do in other Japanese heavy cruisers. So I'm having to come far, far, farther to starboard than I would prefer here in order to get these torpedoes downrange. I'm going to leave one rack for the Lion, and then I remembered my other rack was destroyed in my earlier engagement with the Colbert. Now, I was lit there briefly, and now we see why. The Yamagiri thinks he's going to get into a gunfight with me. I'm not sure why he thinks this is a good idea, especially after I start shaving off his health a quarter or a third at a time. But, you know, all right. Never interrupt your opponent when he's making a mistake, I suppose, because that's going to end up being another massive chunk of that guy's health. Yep, another 6K out down the drain. And he is going to back way the hell off. Now, blessedly, with him in smoke, I have moved far enough south the opposing Lion cannot pick me up. My base detection on the surface, 9.9. So he's about a half kilometer outside of my range. I want to try and put torpedoes down range here. Now, what the mistake I'm going to make, my assumption is the Lion is going to come around this island headland and turn in to face the Wisconsin and go stationary. So I'm leading these torpedoes on the assumption that he's more or less going to end up about where he is right now. Maybe a little farther. Unfortunately, he's going to do something, frankly, even smarter than that. He's going to come around the corner and move towards the Wisconsin and get into the cap to hold our points back. So I had the opportunity there to lead those torpedoes better, farther to the south, right? That would have probably been a dev strike had I led them correctly. And unfortunately, we're not going to get that here. The other mistake I make right here is I probably should have cut my throttle and spent about, a couple of salvos there getting shells downrange on that line without him being able to do anything about it. I tried right there. I realized too late what was happening. I cut my throttle, but I drifted south, and I was like, well, this is never going to work. This is one of those instances where Zhao's laser gun ballistics work against you, right? Sometimes you can't get the shells over the island when you want them to. So we're going to keep pushing south. Again, the Lion is not a ship that I'm terribly afraid of. He's going to have to stay focused on this Wisconsin. My shells are more or less going to be a harassing nuisance to him. A good one, no question, because it's a Lion. That's British 32 millimeter topside armor. My HE is going to do horrible, unspeakable things to this guy. Now, the Wisconsin just lit him. He's obviously running fire prevention, I think. So the Wisconsin just gave him a bow fire and a midships fire. I'm going to start trying to short these salvos intentionally, looking for the stern fire. It's not going to be a ton of good. He does go ahead there and take the to use his damage control party. He's going to take a whole big bunch of torpedoes here. And somebody else is going to get this kill, but we are going to have done our bit for King and Country to try and get him off the board. And just like that, you look up at the score, and suddenly we were down, 250 points at one point, and now we ain't down no more. I look at a game like this in Zhao, and I realize that the reason I end up with the result that I do, and I'm super impressed with the XP result, and we'll show you that in a minute, because nothing else really interesting is going to happen in this game. Is because if you go back to that minute, roll the replay back where I talked about the strategic situation and reading the mini-map and realizing I had a clear shot to the middle of the map where basically there was nothing there that frightened me, right? If we knew the Yamagiri had moved off, it turned out the opposing submarine was in the cap, but again, I am well equipped in this ship to hunt submarines, as we proved twice in this game, and so that doesn't scare me. So I moved into the middle of the board. I end up picking up the cap. We get a dev strike on the Colbert, a double strike murdering the submarine. We take another submarine out of the game. I feel like that's the decisive play. That moment where I read the map and go, there's nothing holding me back from using my stealth as an asset in this game and pushing up. And I think that's something that a lot of Japanese heavy cruiser players sometimes forget, or sometimes they are a little too cautious of. One of the things about Warships is it's a game that sometimes punishes taking risks, but it's also sometimes a game that rewards taking risks. And if you never take a risk, you never find out if the reward would have been worth it. As it turns out, in this game on Trap, the reward was well worth it. Check this out. 1.7 million credits. These should be using the blue boosters, so that's a nice chunk of change. Obviously, my Confederate Dev Strike and Double Strike. I mean, damage-wise, this is not breaking any records, but impact on the battle-wise, I challenge you to find somebody else that had as big an impact as I did, and I think the XP result here will bear that out. This is one of the very few 3,000-plus base experience games I've ever had in 9 years of playing this game. And I look at this game and go, I mean, not to toot my own horn, but I suppose, the MVP is kind of obvious, right? And it's part of it is utilizing the tools that the ship brings me, but part of it is also map awareness, right? Reading the map and going, this is the opportunity that I've been looking for. Let me go maximize it. So as much as I love the Japanese heavy cruiser line, if you're playing this ship, if you're working on maybe your Zhao CLR right now during the Goofy CLR event that's that's got that ship as a reward, I would encourage you to occasionally take some risks with your Zhao just to try it out and see what happens. Because I think sometimes, there will be times that it blows up in your face, but I think sometimes you'll be like, oh yeah, you can get away with some really skanky stuff with this ship. Zhao is a tremendous amount of fun. She hasn't aged as well. I'm not going to stand here and defend that. She hasn't, but she is still relevant in World of Warships in 2024. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed that. Wash your hands. Be safe. I'll catch you next time.